I just want to take a moment to tell everyone that's going through this right now, or that has gone through this, God sees you. He knows exactly what you're going through. He knows when to show up and when to show out. And in a moment that you least expect it, He's going to show up in your life, and He's going to demonstrate to you why you had to go through this.
So now to Him who is able to do more than I ever could hope for.
If you have not watched part 1 and 2 of my testimony, I want you to click on the links in the description box, go back, watch, and come back to this video. I realized that He headed a different direction, and I respected that direction, and I knew that the next phase of my life was going to be ultimately dissolving the marriage. That was really challenging because I had never been through a divorce, and I never got married thinking I will get divorced. And going through the legal proceedings was very tumultuous. The legal proceedings are just overwhelming. You know, you have to go back from the beginning to the marriage. You have to surface, financial records. And then when you have children, it's just a lot of legalities and just so much paperwork. And that in itself was overwhelming. And, at the same time, there were kind of a lot of still strain between us, and at the same time I'm navigating being a single mom. It was just too much. Also, this happened during the time that it was Christmas season, and Christmas was a big thing in our home, and this was the first time in so long that I was by myself on Christmas morning. I remember that day, I didn't even have a Christmas dinner. I was just by myself in the basement, and it was dark and it was cold. I was so depressed. I felt lonely. I felt like so much disappointment because I couldn't believe that my life was coming to this. I couldn't believe that what I attempted to build and the vision that I had for my family was crumbling right in front of my face, and that everything that I had hoped for and prayed for was going to end, and it was going to be marked by a piece of paper. And that Christmas is a Christmas I will never forget for several reasons. Number one, because I felt what many people probably felt during the holidays. I always enjoyed the holidays, and Christmas was just a thing in my home. And I never really realized how many people suffered during that season, until it was my turn to sit alone with no Christmas tree, by myself, no money, but just holding on to the promises of God. That Christmas day, I was invited to a service, and I said, I'm gonna go. What can I lose? I honestly didn't want to go anywhere, but I was like, I'm gonna go to that service. And it was so funny because God kept speaking to me about, Natalie, I'm going to give you a new beginning. And when I got invited to this church just as a guest, they didn't tell me the name of the church. He just gave me the address, and I put in the GPS. And when I got there, the church's name was New Beginnings Worship. So I walked into the service, and it was just a typical service. And everything changed when the minister took the mic, and he began to do the altar call, like early on, right, in the service. And I never met this man. I never seen him before. I've never heard of him. And he looked at me, and he singled me out from the crowd. And he said to me, come here, because I had a vision of you last night, and God showed me your life. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm used to that, right? If you're not used to the prophetic, like, that's how it is, okay? God speaks in volumes, and God speaks with clarity. When he called me out and he singled me out, and I came to the altar, he began to say everything that I was going through. I mean, to the T. My mother and my sister were with me, And we were just like flabbergasted at the fact that God was revealing my present situation, because that's the God I serve. God acknowledges our pain. He knows exactly what we're going through. And he will bring those reminders to you to let you know that you're not alone in the process. I mean, when I tell you, I was like really depressed that day, that Christmas. I was so succumbed into my sorrows. And here is God using this vessel, this man of God, to give me an on-time word. That is the God that I serve. And after he says all that was going on, because I will tell you, this man was really very much on point. Then he tells me why I was going through this. And I was waiting for an answer, because I knew that God was allowing this for a purpose, for a greater purpose, to reach out to women. I knew that. But I wanted to know, God, why is the pain so intense? And he said to me, the Holy Spirit spoke to him and said, you're going through this because God is changing your garment right now. He's shifting your life right now. And your life is going to soar to new levels and new heights. He's allowing the brokenness to take place because he's going to remold you into the woman you were predestined to be. I mean, it was just something that it was so overwhelming and so refreshing to hear, that I left that service knowing that God was with me, knowing that I was going to get through this, even though it was a difficult season, even though it was heartbreaking to see in front of my eyes my marriage come to an end. I knew that God was with me. And I just want to take a moment to tell everyone that's going through this right now, or that has gone through this, God sees you. He knows exactly what you're going through. He knows when to show up and when to show out. And in a moment that you least expect it, he's going to show up in your life, and he's going to demonstrate to you why you had to go through this. Everything that you've been through has served as a training ground for where God is taking you next. You one day will sit in the same position that I'm in right now, and you will look back and you will laugh, and you will remember the things that you went through, but you won't remember it with pain. So I want to share that to you. And that's why I know that the Lord is leading me to share my testimonies, because there's so many people out there that are suffering in silence, that feel ashamed, that feel depressed, and feel as though that there is no way out. But there is, and hope and healing is on the horizon. So at this point, it is close to the end of the year, and things got really quiet between him and I. We didn't have much conversations. We were just kind of waiting for the proceedings to be finalized. And so, I kept praying, kept pressing. I still was pretty much very sad about the whole thing and grieving, because it is like a loss. Divorce is like death. And I was going through a lot of grieving and crying, but I was still hopeful and knowing that God was going to do something powerful through all of this. So now I have COVID for the second time, though the symptoms were a lot lighter than the first time, and I'm quarantined in a basement going through a divorce. And you can just imagine how I felt, because let's say that you're going through something, you can go take a drive, you can go outside. But at this time, I was quarantined again. And I got so anxious and so overwhelmed. And I said, God, why are you doing this to me? Like, I need to get out the house. I can't get out the house, and I'm quarantined. And in desperation, I will never forget, I started to Google some therapists, some psychologists nearby, and I needed a virtual session. I was willing to pay whatever money. I was so desperate, because now I'm restricted by space. I'm going through divorce. It's about to be New Year's, and I'm just overwhelmed. So during this time, when I find out that I have COVID, I had already scheduled an appointment with a therapist. Now, I'll be honest, my spirit didn't resonate with her very well. But the truth is, I just wanted someone to talk to because, the weight of the divorce was sitting on me. And now I had to cancel my appointment. And now I'm quarantined. I was overwhelmed. And I went to God and I said, God, why are you doing this to me? Why am I now restricted? Now, why are you allowing me to get sick while going through a divorce and I can't get out the house? Why, Lord? And I remember I heard the voice of God that said to me, give me permission to heal you. And I fell on the floor. I boo-hooed. I cried like a baby when I heard God say that to me, because it's nothing wrong with therapy. As a matter of fact, I'm an advocate for therapy. I still go to therapy, and I'll share that in another video, how that journey started. But God wanted to show me that He is my healer. He is my source. A therapist is a resource. So God did not want me to be codependent on a human being. He wanted me to be codependent on Him. So now I'm quarantined. Remember, this is, I think, the first or second phase of the pandemic. Now I'm quarantined. I think it was about 10 days. And during those 10 days, God began to illuminate and show me the path that He wanted to take me through this healing journey. It was like that He wanted to deal with me in a way that was, I would say, a little bit non-traditional. Because typically when we go through something like this, we'll go to therapy and then we go to pastoral counseling. He wanted to be my counselor first. He wanted to be my first therapist. Then receive the additional help that I needed throughout the process. So during those 10 days that I was in quarantine, I was coughing and I was at home, God designed to me a blueprint. And He showed me, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And I'm going to guide you and I'm going to support you throughout the journey. That journey with God took one entire year. And I knew at that point when God said to me, I'm going to give you this blueprint. In those 10 days that I was quarantined, I knew I was in for a ride. I was in for a journey. I knew that things were going to be so different there out, but I surrendered myself to God because I gave Him my yes. When He asked me, He says, let me heal you, I said yes. I knew it was difficult, and that's why I started to cry, because I knew that the healing journey was going to be painful.
Show yourself strong.